declaration from the EU, no less, has named the Falkland Islands as Islas Malvinas. Declaration published after a two-day meeting with 27 EU member states and a bloc of 33 Latin American countries called CELAC.
In Buenos Aires, the move has been hailed as a diplomatic triumph, but Downing Street calls their choice of words regrettable. Well, joining us now is MP for Bracknell, James Sunderland, who served in the Falklands. And let's just remind younger people who are with us this afternoon, James, that that conflict in 1982 claimed the lives of 255 British servicemen, 3 islanders and 649, Argentine personnel. How do you feel, then, about this war of words that's broken out today?
Well, it's outrageous, is my personal view. I was 12 years old when the Argentinian forces invaded the Falklands. Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister at the time. She sent the task force down to the South Atlantic, and after a couple of months of brutal fighting, the flag was raised once again over Port Stanley, the British flag. And the reason the British flag was raised over Port Stanley in 1982 was because the islands are British. The people of the Falklands want to be part of Britain. 3,000 islanders, they voted overwhelmingly, over 99% in the referendum to stay British. And it's my clear view that what's happened this week within the European Union is outrageous.
And you've served in the Falklands, you've been there, you've spoken to that British protectorate, effectively, as it is. This, I guess, will be taken as pretty much of an insult by those islanders.
Yeah, the islanders are passionate about this. They are passionate Brits. I was in the Falklands before Christmas. I served there myself personally as a serving officer in 1996 and 2007. I know the Falklands very well. They are a part of me, and I love the people down there. I love the islands, and they'll be absolutely shocked and horrified at what the EU's done this week. The islands in the Falklands are not Islas Malvinas. They are the Falkland Islands. UK has exercised sovereignty over them since 1833. It was a British explorer who put the flag on the Falklands in 1650. And to my mind, this is a smack in the face for the UK by the European Union.
How much do you think this is about punishing the UK for Brexit, then, James?
Well, it's a very hard one to answer. I mean, ultimately, you've got to take it in context. So you had a meeting between EU officials and CELAC nations. So quite clearly, there's been a dialogue. I imagine that diplomats have been carried away by the occasion. There's been a decision taken to record the Falkland Islands as Islas Malvinas on the document. I would hope that the EU comes to regret it. I think it'd be very difficult to draw a parallel between this and Brexit. But of course, the UK is no longer part of the European Union, rightly so, and the EU can effectively do what it wants. But one thing I would say to you is that as close allies, as NATO partners, this was not a clever move.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what can we do about this now? We understand that James Cleverly, the Foreign Secretary, has demanded of the EC President, Charles Michel, that they clarify the position. That's so far met with radio silence. I just wonder, given the diplomatic sensitivities, how much should we push this now?
Well, I think the FCDO is quite right to represent it. James Cleverly is on record this morning, I think, as saying that they want to see this changed. He's absolutely right. I mean, the Falklands are important to the UK. The UK is important to the Falklands. And the UK should also be important to our EU allies. And in my view, there has been an error of judgment. I think the UK is entirely right to want to see that, that changed back to what it should be. And no doubt the wrangle will continue.
Right, well, just want to talk to you about something else. Your colleague, Tobias Ellwood, no less, chair of the Commons Defence Select Committee. There is now an attempt by some Conservative MPs to oust him after that video, very controversially, praising the Taliban. Do you think he should go?
Well, I know Tobias very well. He's a clever guy. He's a good operator. He has a proud record in defence and as a former minister. I suspect that what's happened here is the same thing. Tobias has gone to Afghanistan. He's met with the Taliban. He's got carried away by the moment. So I don't necessarily subscribe to what he said in that video. I think he's come out this morning and apologised for it. But to oust him, I think, is a bit strong.
Yeah, do you think he was perhaps saying the right thing in the wrong way, in that he's wanted, obviously, the government to reopen the British embassy in Kabul, saying the current strategy of shouting from afar is not working?
I think it's reasonable to expect that at some point we are going to have to re-engage with the Taliban. That's inevitable, and we can't just ignore them. The Taliban are in control once again of Afghanistan. There were many positive things from Tobias's report from Kabul, but it is so sensitive at the same time. We lost lots of British troops out there, lots of foreign troops. And I think in many ways the families themselves, I think, will be sitting uncomfortably watching that video. So my personal view is that we have to try and tread both paths very carefully. Deference to those who lost their lives and the families, deference to what the British forces did out there with their allies, but also the need, in my view, to but to engage with the Taliban at some point.
But what is winding a lot of people up, James, is Tobias Ellwood describing Afghanistan as a country transformed. He must know how women and girls are still being treated out there. They're banned from going to school. I mean, it's just a ridiculous thing to say.
No, I completely agree. I mean, Afghanistan is different to what it was 12 months ago and 24 months ago. But of course, we're also seeing horror stories in terms of how women and girls are being treated. The beauty parlours thing yesterday, girls not in school, women don't have the rights. I mean, we absolutely cannot subscribe to what is happening in Afghanistan in terms of their domestic policies towards women and girls. It is quite clearly wrong. But what I would say is that dialogue is good. We can perhaps influence the Taliban to make Afghanistan a better place for women and children, to reopen schools. And in many ways, if you don't talk to people that you don't like, nothing ever gets done. And the UK does have a role in the world, does have a global role to bring people with it. We are respecters of democracy, and I think it's entirely right that at some point we are going to have to re-engage with the Taliban for objective reasons.
And I really appreciate your thoughts on that this afternoon. Thanks for talking to us.